Eat this, drink that, go.
Remember, the wait times at the HCA East Florida Hospital emergency rooms average in this single day just less than 10 minutes. Just go to hcaeastflorida.com, list all their wait times for all their emergency rooms, and they update those times every 30 minutes so you're ready in case of an emergency. It comes in handy. It did for me a couple of weeks ago. It will for you and your family. Bookmark that in your phone because emergencies don't wait for appointments. Go to hcaeastflorida.com. Really a great service by HCA. We're so pleased to be joined again by Zachary Mazur, who's the Kobrand Southeastern Port Ambassador from Kobrand Corporation. Welcome again. Good to see you, Zach.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Jimmy.
Welcome.
Brenda.
Last time you were here, we had a fine port. What did we call that last port?
So we had two different styles of ruby port.
Ruby port.
So ruby is going to be more red in
Deep
color,
red, right.
and it's going to be fruit forward on the nose and palate.
Got it.
Today we have two different styles of tawny port, two different ages of tawny port, which is going to be more towards a brown color, and it's going to be a lot more nutty and oaky on the nose and palate.
How do they bring that out as opposed to the ruby port, which is fruit forward? How do they get to this level of this?
So that's a great question, and it's funny. It's the same exact grapes, and they start the same way. So those ruby ports, instead of being in a large oak barrel for just a couple years, they go into a very small oak cask for many more years. The first one we're going to try, spend 7 years in a small oak cask, and by small I'm talking about 500 liters, so less than twice the size of the smallest French oak barriques that you'll age fine red and white wine in.
Okay.
And then with this 20 years. And an average of 20 years in small oak barrel. And the exposure to oxygen that is able to perforate the pores in the barrels that the wine is exposed to makes the color fade from red to brown, and also creates a nutty and an oxidative flavor from the reaction that oxygen has with the wine.
So you would use tawnies versus ruby ports completely differently, wouldn't you? I mean,
Yes.
you use it for a dessert, but obviously there's a lot of different applications to both because of different flavor profiles.
For sure, and with this young tawny, I can go ahead and pour some of this for you guys.
Okay.
This is a young tawny chilled. You want to have these lightly chilled, whereas a ruby port is going to be just the same way you'd enjoy a full-bodied red wine, so at or a little bit below Florida air-conditioned room temperature. But with a young tawny port, it's nice even just as a happy hour drink, something to have right when you get off
And
work.
does anybody ever complain about the brown color by just not knowing?
You could, and it could be people that aren't real savvy about port might be a little bit off-putting to see that type of color, but we just have to reassure them that is the flavors coming out and developing.
On the nose, it's such a a rich nose.
And on the palate too, there's a real richness to this tawny port from Croft, 7-year. That's marvelous. Now, obviously, there's you've got to keep something aside for 7 years for this, and then for the next one, 20 years. More expensive because of that?
Definitely, and the reason for that, it's not just the real estate that you have sitting there for that long. It is because you're losing a lot of wine to evaporation. So when it's sitting in that barrel, you're losing 1.5 to 3% of the volume of the wine per year to evaporation because you have water and alcohol evaporating at a similar rate. So with the amount of ports that we have aging at Taylor Flaggate alone, we're losing an Olympic-sized swimming pool to evaporation per day.
Per day?
Per day.
Wow.
The angel share is
The angels, of course, we call it the angel share.
Right.
Angels love Portugal.
Yeah, they do.
Usually talk about that with bourbon, but that is the correct term here, and that makes a more concentrated flavor, a richer.
Can I tell you, it's marvelous. And wine people sometimes when they see a brownish tint to any wine, they'd say, "Oh, it's done, it's over, it's gone." Not with tawny ports. That is a marvelous, nutty flavor. And you've brought another dessert for us to try. What would be the difference to, say, the ruby port, which you did strawberries dipped in chocolate, to what you brought here?
So yeah, with the ruby port, and I did with a dark chocolate as well, because the sweetness and the fruitiness of the ruby port was really good with the dark chocolate. But I think a milk chocolate here with the nuts. Definitely the nuts is the number one pairing with a tawny port, because the nutty flavor you get in the wine goes really well with the nutty flavor that you have here, because that oaky, nutty nose and smell on the wine tastes really, really good with this.
It's a great combo. It really is wonderful. No, you,
Really
you
good.
have a dinner party for somebody. This is you don't need anything more for dessert.
No,
A simple plate of something like this, of cookies
especially
or
after a
chocolates.
big meal,
Yeah.
like chili.
You're back to the chili. She puts peanut butter in hers. It's a southern thing. Don't even ask about it. But absolutely wonderful. A great combination. Again, this is a 7-year Croft tawny port, and the price point approx.
So this usually can come in right at 20 or a little bit under $20. So a lot of retailers get it down to 18, 19.99.
It's a great
That's
price, too.
amazing.
Yeah, because just with a couple more years, when you're talking about, say, a 10-year aged tawny port, you're jumping up another $10, $15. So you have a great value here.
7-year. The next one we're going to try is a 20. How far do they go up?
So with tawny ports, you have a couple different categories. Your fine tawny port, just aged 2 to 4 years.
Right.
Tawny Reserve needs a minimum of 6. With the Croft, we're doing an extra year, so 7. And then you have what's called age-indicated tawnies. And that's 10, 20, 30, and 40 year. And above that, there are some older ones called a colheita. Colheita. So it's a Portuguese name, Portuguese term. And that is a tawny port from a single vintage. So where these are all blends, some of the port's a little bit younger, some is about that age,
Really
some's a little bit older.
ones are blended.
With a colheita, it's going to be from a single harvest. So Taylor Flaggate actually makes a 50-year.
From a single harvest.
From a single harvest.
Wow.
So we have, and they call it a very old single harvest tawny, is the English term, and colheita being the Portuguese term.
The second one is the 20-year tawny from Taylor Flaggate.
Yep. So this is the #1 selling age-indicated tawny in the U.S.
Okay.
So outsells all the 10 years, which are much cheaper. And that's because you'll see when we taste this, the amazing quality and richness that you're going to get from this.
And it's tawnier.
Yeah, so-
It's there's a new word. It's tawnier.
So no, very good statement there. So I was saying your tawnies are a more brown color.
Right.
But as you get older, say you get to this 20-year, is what tawny means. It means it's a shade of tan. So, and you put this up against a white surface, and you can see that is tawny.
Yeah.
That is the tan color.
Right.
20 years right in the middle is what a true tawny should look like, a 20-year tawny.
It's a richer flavor.
Yeah, it's much, yeah.
You know, but it's got that concentration of what we had in the Croft, just notched up.
And
a
it's
bunch.
so smooth.
Yeah, it is. It's a wonderful bottle of wine.
That is beautiful.
And would you use this as a pairing with the same things that we used for the 7-year Croft? The
Yeah.
milk chocolate with a nut kind of thing.
Yeah, your best things you're looking at here is nuts, chocolates, cheeses, your soft cheeses, such as your something like a brie.
Yeah.
But I think with the 20-year, something that it would pair better with than the 7-year is you can do some charcuterie, so some deli meats, so
Right.
thin sliced fatty
Right.
cold cut meats are going to go really well with this because it has the acidity to cut through the fat and create a really nice finish, long finish.
Terrific. The distinction of Taylor Flaggate, innovation has been a large part of what they've done through the years, hasn't it been?
For sure. So Taylor Flaggate was the first port house to actually purchase land in the Douro Valley. So that was in 1744. They were the first port house to create a late bottle vintage style of port. That was the 1965 vintage, which they aged for 4 years and then bottled in 1969. They were the first to create a single quinta vintage port. So where a vintage port is only made in the very best years, 2 to 3 times per decade, a single quinta port, which means vineyard in Portuguese, quinta, is bottled in the very good years, not the best years, from only their very best vineyard. So that was also in the 1960s.
Right.
And then the extra dry style of white port as well, the Taylor Chip Dry, was the first extra dry style of white port.
Just great stuff. Again,
Yes.
go find them today. It was a Croft 7-year tawny port in Taylor Flaggate 20. Available at your local fine wine stores. You'll love it. Zach, thank you so much again.
Thank you so
thanks for the
much.
You're very
education.
welcome.
What
Thank
a
you
great
so much
pleasure.
for having
you.
me on the show.
We'll come
I
back with
loved
more
it.
right after this on Eat This, Drink That.
Go.